Blood was already on the floor before anyone realized the billionaire had made a mistake he could never undo. The silence came first. Then the sound. A sharp inhale. A tray crashing. Someone whispering, "She's pregnant." Jae-min Park stood frozen, his hands still half raised, his breath uneven, not from regret, but from the sudden shift in the room. Moments ago, everything had been under control. Now, something invisible had slipped. Hannah Kim didn't fall. That was the first thing that unsettled everyone. She stood there, one hand gripping the edge of the counter, the other slowly rising to her cheek where the red mark had already begun to bloom. Her eyes didn't water. Her lips didn't tremble. She just looked at him. Not with fear. Not even with anger. But something else. Something that made Jae-min's chest tighten in a way he didn't understand. "I told you," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the tension slicing through the air, "you don't get to touch me." A murmur rippled through the hallway. Nurses exchanged glances. A junior doctor stepped back like the ground itself had become unstable. Jae-min lowered his hand slowly, his jaw tightening. "You forget who you're speaking to." "No," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "You forget where you are." The weight of her words landed heavier than the slap. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes, something dangerously close to hesitation. Then it was gone. "This hospital exists because of me," he said coldly. "Everything here answers to me." Hannah let out a soft breath, almost like a quiet laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Then that explains why it's rotting." The air snapped. Daniel Choi, standing just behind Jae-min, stiffened. He had seen his boss furious before, had built empires on that fury, but this was different. This wasn't controlled anger. This was personal. "Watch your mouth," Jae-min said, his voice dropping lower, quieter, more dangerous. Hannah tilted her head slightly. "Or what? You'll hit me again?" The question hung there. Heavy. Unavoidable. Every eye in the hallway locked onto Jae-min. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar pressing against his ribs. Not fear. But exposure. "You caused a delay in my father's treatment," he said sharply, stepping closer. "Do you even understand what that cost me?" Hannah's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "I followed protocol," she replied. "Your father wasn't the only patient dying that night." The words hit harder than anything physical. Jae-min's chest rose sharply. "You chose wrong." "No," she said, her voice firm now. "You just couldn't control the outcome." That was it. That was the crack. The one place no one was allowed to touch. Control. Before anyone could react, his hand moved again, but this time, he stopped himself inches from her face. The restraint wasn't mercy. It was calculation. Because now, the room wasn't just watching. It was judging. And Jae-min Park did not lose in front of an audience. He straightened slowly, adjusting his cuff like nothing had happened. "You're suspended," he said flatly. "Effective immediately." A gasp escaped someone near the door. Hannah didn't respond right away. She simply lowered her hand from her cheek and looked at him with that same unreadable expression. Then she nodded once. "Good," she said. The word landed wrong. Too calm. Too accepting. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. Something wasn't right. "Security will escort you out," Jae-min added, turning as if the matter was already beneath him. But Hannah spoke again. And this time, her voice cut through everything. "You should be careful, Mr. Park." He paused. Just for a fraction of a second. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But Daniel did. "What is that supposed to mean?" Jae-min asked without turning. "It means," Hannah said softly, "some mistakes don't stay buried." A chill crept into the room. Jae-min turned back slowly, his gaze sharp. Is that a threat? Hannah held his stare for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No, she said. It's a warning. Before he could respond, she turned and walked away. No hesitation. No backward glance. Just steady, measured steps toward the exit as two security guards scrambled to catch up. The hallway remained frozen long after she disappeared. Then the whispers began. Did you see that? She didn't even flinch. Is she crazy? No, that wasn't crazy. Jae-min exhaled sharply, the sound cutting through the noise. Everyone back to work, he snapped. The crowd scattered instantly. But the tension didn't leave. It clung to the walls, to the floor. To him. Daniel stepped forward cautiously. Sir. Not now, Jae-min said, already walking away. But Daniel didn't move. Because something was still echoing in his mind. The way she looked at him. The way she spoke. Not like a victim. Not like someone afraid. Like someone who already knew how this would end. Hours later, the hospital had returned to its routine, but the incident hadn't faded. It had spread. Phones buzzed. Messages flew. A short clip, just seconds long, circulated among staff. The slap. The silence. Her voice. Daniel stood in his office, replaying it for the third time. Then the fourth. Then he paused. Zoomed in. His eyes narrowed. No way. He muttered under his breath. There it was. Not the slap. Not Jae-min. Her. The angle caught just enough. The slight shift of her sleeve. The mark on her wrist. A small, almost invisible tattoo. But Daniel recognized it. Because he had seen it once before. Years ago. In a place no one spoke about. His stomach dropped. Without thinking, he grabbed his phone and dialed. Get me everything on Hannah Kim, he said the moment the line connected. Now. He hung up and looked back at the screen. At her face. At that calm, unsettling gaze. And for the first time since the incident, he felt something close to fear. Not for her. For Jae-min. Because if he was right, then this wasn't just a mistake. It was a trigger. And somewhere far away, in a world Jae-min didn't even know existed, someone dangerous was about to hear about it. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, Hannah stepped into the fading light, her hand resting lightly on her stomach. Her breathing was steady. But her eyes were no longer calm. They were calculating. A black car sat across the street, engine idling. She noticed it immediately. Of course she did. She always noticed. For a moment, she considered turning the other way. Disappearing. Running again. But then she closed her eyes briefly. And shook her head. No more running, she whispered to herself. When she opened her eyes again, the softness was gone. She reached into her bag, pulled out a phone she hadn't used in years, and stared at it. Her thumb hovered over the screen. This was the line she had promised never to cross again. Because once she did, there was no going back. No normal life. No quiet future for her child. Just shadows. Violence. And blood. Inside the hospital, Jae-min stood alone in his office, staring out at the city. He told himself it was over. Handled. Contained. But something kept replaying in his mind. Her voice. Her eyes. You should be careful. His jaw tightened. I don't get warned, he muttered. But even as he said it, something deep in his chest disagreed. Back outside, Hannah pressed the call button. The phone rang once. Twice. Then. A voice answered. Low. Calm. Deadly. Hannah. She didn't speak immediately. Because saying his name meant accepting everything she had tried to leave behind. But she had no choice now. They found me, she said finally, her voice steady but heavy. There was a pause on the other end. A long one. And when he spoke again, the temperature of the world seemed to drop. Who? Hannah's grip on the phone tightened. Her eyes lifted slowly, back toward the hospital. Someone who just made a very big mistake. Daniel didn't wait for confirmation. He stormed into Jae-min's office without knocking, the door slamming hard enough to echo through the glass walls. Jae-min didn't turn immediately. He kept his eyes on the city, jaw tight, fingers resting on the edge of his desk like he was holding something back. You need to see this, Daniel said, voice low but urgent. I said not now. It's about her. That made him turn. Slowly. Annoyed at first, then something sharper when he saw Daniel's face. Daniel walked forward and placed the phone on the desk, replaying the clip. The same moment. The same silence. The same stare. But this time, he paused it and zoomed in on her wrist. Jae-min frowned. What am I looking at? Daniel didn't answer immediately. His throat felt dry. That mark, he said finally. It's not random. Jae-min's irritation returned. Get to the point. Daniel met his eyes. I've seen it before. A beat. Where? Daniel hesitated, and that alone was enough to shift the atmosphere. In Busan, he said quietly. Years ago. During that situation. Jae-min's expression hardened. Be specific. Daniel exhaled slowly. It's tied to them. Silence. Not confusion. Recognition. Jae-min's gaze flickered back to the screen, this time sharper, calculating. That's impossible. I thought so too, Daniel said. Until I saw it clearly. Jae-min leaned back slightly, his mind already moving. You're telling me a nurse, he gestured dismissively, a pregnant nurse, is connected to them? I'm telling you, Daniel replied, voice steady now, she's not just connected. Another pause. Then, quieter. She belongs to them. The word settled like a slow, spreading crack beneath the surface. Jae-min didn't react the way most people would. No panic. No visible fear. Just stillness. The dangerous kind. How sure are you? He asked. Daniel didn't blink. Sure enough that if this is true, we don't have a problem. A beat. We have a situation. Jae-min looked back at the paused image. At her face. At the calm he had dismissed. And for the first time, something inside him didn't fit neatly into control. Find out everything, he said. I want confirmation, not guesses. I already started, Daniel replied. But there's something else. Jae-min's gaze lifted. She didn't react like someone afraid, Daniel continued. She didn't threaten you. She warned you. Jae-min scoffed lightly. People like her don't warn. They act. That's what worries me, Daniel said. The room went quiet again. Then. Jae-min picked up the phone and replayed the moment one more time. Her voice echoed softly. It's a warning. He set the phone down. Then let's see who she thinks she's warning. Across the city, the black car hadn't moved. Hannah noticed that too. It stayed just far enough to avoid attention. Close enough to remind her that the past never really lets go, it just waits. She stepped into a small side street instead of heading home. Her pace was calm, but her mind was already mapping exits, shadows, distances. The call still lingered in her ear. Hannah. That voice. Cold. Familiar. Unavoidable. You shouldn't have called, he had said after she explained. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. She stopped walking when he said that. No, she whispered. Not this time. A long silence followed. Then. Who touched you? The question had no emotion. Which made it worse. Hannah closed her eyes briefly. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. It shouldn't. Another pause. But this one was heavier. Because she knew what came after. I'll handle it, he said. Her eyes snapped open. No. The word came too fast. Too sharp. Hannah. I said no, she repeated, firmer now. You stay out of this. You don't get to decide that. I do when it's my life, she snapped, drawing a glance from a passerby before lowering her voice. I left that world for a reason. And yet, he said calmly, it keeps finding you. She had no answer for that. Because it was true. I don't want him dead, she said finally. That was the real reason. Not fear. Not hesitation. Choice. Another silence. Then a quiet shift in his tone. That's new. I'm serious. So am I. Hey Jean, she said softly, and for the first time, there was something close to pleading in her voice, if you do this, there's no going back. There was never a way back, he replied. The line went quiet. Then he added. But for you. I'll wait. That was the closest thing to mercy he could offer. Hannah ended the call slowly, her grip tightening before she lowered the phone. She exhaled deeply. But the tension didn't leave. Because waiting didn't mean stopping. It just meant the clock had started. Back at the hospital, things were already shifting. Kang Dae-ho stood in his office, watching the news replay the incident on mute. The headline scrolled across the screen, dramatic, exaggerated, but effective. Billionaire assault scandal. He smiled faintly. Right on schedule. His phone buzzed. He didn't need to check the name. Is it done? The voice on the other end asked. Kang leaned back in his chair. Better than expected. The reaction is spreading faster than planned. And her? Kang's smile thinned. She took the bait. A pause. Good. Kang glanced back at the screen, where Hannah's face had just flashed briefly. Everything is moving, he added. Just like you wanted. Then don't make mistakes. Kang's grip tightened slightly. I don't intend to. The call ended. And for a moment, the room felt colder. Because Kang Dae-ho wasn't just watching events unfold. He had set them in motion. Later that night, Jae-min didn't go home. He stayed in his office, reviewing reports that had nothing to do with what was actually on his mind. The city lights blurred beyond the glass. His thoughts didn't. Every piece was starting to connect, but not in a way he liked. A nurse who didn't fear him. A warning instead of retaliation. A mark tied to something buried. And Daniel's unease. That last part bothered him the most. Daniel didn't get uneasy. Ever. The door opened again, quieter this time. Update, Daniel said. Jae-min didn't turn. Talk. We traced her records, Daniel began. Most of them are clean. Too clean. Jae-min's eyes narrowed slightly. Meaning? Meaning they were built, not lived, Daniel said. Identity gaps. Missing years. No family records. Now Jae-min turned. And? Daniel held his gaze. And we found a name. A beat. Hey Jean. The name hit the air like a dropped blade. Jae-min's expression didn't change, but something deeper did. Because that name, he knew it. Not personally. But by reputation. A shadow in powerful circles. Untouchable. Untraceable. Dangerous. You're sure? He asked quietly. Daniel nodded once. If she's who we think she is. He said, choosing his words carefully, then she's not just connected. He paused. She's protected. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Final. Jae-min looked back out at the city, but this time, it felt different. Not like something he owned. But something watching him back. She told me it was a warning, he said slowly. Daniel didn't respond. Because now, they both understood what that meant. And somewhere far beyond the city lights, a man who didn't forgive, had just learned his sister had been touched. And he was waiting. The first sign that waiting was over came without warning. A convoy. Not loud. Not chaotic. Just precise. 3 black vehicles rolled into the hospital's underground parking lot just before dawn, engines cutting in perfect sequence. No sirens. No rush. Just presence. Security didn't stop them. They couldn't. By the time anyone thought to question it, the men were already inside. Upstairs, Jae-min hadn't slept. He stood in the same position as hours before, jacket off, sleeves rolled, staring at documents he hadn't read. The city outside had shifted from night to morning, but the tension in his chest hadn't moved. A knock came. Soft. Measured. Daniel entered before being told. "They're here," he said. Jae-min didn't ask who. He already knew. "How many?" he asked instead. "Enough." That was all that needed to be said. Jae-min exhaled slowly, rolling his shoulders once as if preparing for a meeting instead of a confrontation that could end everything. "Where?" "Lobby." A pause. "They didn't force entry," Daniel added. "They were let in." That made Jae-min's eyes narrow. Someone had opened the door. And that meant one thing. This wasn't just external pressure anymore. It was internal. "Stay close," Jae-min said, already moving. Daniel followed without hesitation. The lobby felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Staff stood frozen behind counters, pretending to work but not really moving. Patients sat without speaking. Even the air felt heavier. And at the center of it, he stood. "Hey Jean." No raised voice. No visible weapon. No dramatic entrance. Just a man in a dark coat, hands in his pockets, eyes calmly scanning the space like he already owned it. Jae-min slowed as he approached. Not out of fear. Out of awareness. Every instinct told him this was not a man you rushed. Hey Jean's gaze found him instantly. And held. There was no introduction. No greeting. Just silence stretching thin between them. "You're him," Hey Jean said finally. Not a question. A statement. Jae-min stopped a few feet away. "And you're trespassing." A faint shift in Hey Jean's expression, something almost like amusement, but colder. "I was invited," he said. Jae-min didn't react outwardly, but Daniel did, just slightly. That confirmed it. Someone inside had opened the door. "I don't recall sending that invitation," Jae-min replied. "You didn't," Hey Jean said. "But your system did." A beat. Then. "Your weakness did." That landed. Not loudly. But deeply. Jae-min's jaw tightened. "Say what you came to say." Hey Jean studied him for a moment longer, then stepped forward. Not aggressively. Just enough to close the space. "You touched something that belongs to me." The words were calm. Flat. Final. Jae-min didn't step back. "She's not an object," he said. "No," Hey Jean agreed softly. "She's the only reason you're still breathing." The temperature dropped. Around them, no one moved. No one spoke. Even the security guards avoided eye contact. Because this wasn't a confrontation. It was a quiet declaration of power. Jae-min held his ground. If you're here to threaten me. I don't threaten, Jean interrupted. A pause. I decide. The simplicity of it made it worse. Jaemin's mind moved quickly, calculating angles, outcomes, risks, but none of them felt stable, because this wasn't a negotiation he controlled. Then decide, Jaemin said. Jean tilted his head slightly. I already did, he replied. Another step closer. Nothing happens to you, he continued, until she says it should. That was unexpected. Jaemin's eyes narrowed slightly. And if she doesn't? Jean's gaze didn't waver. Then you live, he said simply. A beat. But you don't get to forget. Silence again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then. Jean reached into his coat. Security tensed instantly. Daniel shifted. Jaemin didn't move. Jean pulled out a small envelope and placed it gently on the counter beside them. No more mistakes, he said. Then he turned. Just like that. No explosion. No violence. Just control. The kind that didn't need to prove itself. His men followed without a word. And within seconds. They were gone. The lobby exhaled all at once. Sound returned in fragments. Whispers. Footsteps. Breathing. But Jaemin didn't move. His eyes were locked on the envelope. Daniel stepped closer. Don't touch it. Jaemin ignored him. He picked it up. Opened it. Inside. Photos. Not of Hannah. Of him. Documents. Records. Transactions. His company's hidden dealings. The illegal trials. Everything. Exposed. Not to the public. To him. A message. Clear. Precise. We see you. Daniel swore under his breath. How did they get this? Jaemin's grip tightened on the papers. They didn't get it, he said quietly. They've had it. That was worse. Because it meant this wasn't sudden. It was prepared. Planned. Waiting. Just like Jean said. Across the city, Hannah sat alone in a small apartment, the curtains drawn tight despite the daylight pressing against them. Her hand rested on her stomach again, but this time, her fingers trembled slightly. Not from fear. From the weight of what she had done. The phone buzzed once. A message. No name. Just one line. I saw him. Her eyes closed slowly. Of course he did. You promised to wait, she typed back. A pause. Then the reply came. I am. Her breath caught. Because she understood what that meant now. Waiting didn't mean stopping. It meant choosing the moment. And that moment was getting closer. Back at the hospital, Kang Dae-ho watched everything unfold from a distance. The arrival. The exit. The silence that followed. His smile returned. Wider this time. Because the pieces were colliding exactly as planned. Jaemin, Hannah. Jean. All in one place. All connected. All unstable. He picked up his phone again. They've met, he said. And? Kang leaned back, eyes gleaming. Now, he said softly, we push. Because for him, this was never about the slap. Or the nurse. Or even the Mafia. It was about something bigger. Something buried inside those documents. Something worth destroying everything for. Jaemin stood alone again hours later, the envelope still open on his desk. The city outside no longer looked the same. It felt smaller. Closer. Like something closing in. For the first time in years. He wasn't in control. And worse. He wasn't the most dangerous person in the room anymore. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it for a moment. Then answered. A pause. Then. Her voice. You shouldn't have opened it, Hannah said quietly. Jaemin's grip tightened slightly. You knew about this, he said. Yes. And you said nothing. I warned you. He exhaled slowly. That wasn't a warning, he said. That was a countdown. A soft silence on the other end. Then. Now you understand. Jaemin's eyes darkened slightly. No, he said. Now I'm involved. A pause. Then something shifted in her tone. Then listen carefully, she said. Because from this point on. Her voice lowered. Every word deliberate. Every choice you make will cost someone. Silence followed. Heavy. Final. And for the first time. Jaemin realized something he couldn't ignore. This was no longer about power. It was about survival. The next hit didn't come from the shadows. It came from the truth. Daniel found it first. And for the first time since this began, his hands weren't steady. Jaemin noticed immediately. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said. Daniel didn't respond right away. He dropped a file on the table instead. I traced Kang's last call, he said quietly. Jaemin's eyes flicked to the file. And? Daniel swallowed once. It wasn't external. A pause. It was from inside your system. Silence. Heavy. Then. Play it, Jaemin said. Daniel hesitated. That was the second sign something was wrong, but he played it anyway. The voice that filled the room wasn't distorted. Wasn't hidden. It was clear. Calm. Familiar. Jaemin's expression didn't change immediately. But something behind his eyes did. Because he recognized it. Instantly. You've done well, the voice said through the recording. Now remove yourself from the board. Kang's voice followed, strained. You promised protection. And you had it, the first voice replied. Until you became a liability. A click. End of call. Silence crashed down. Daniel didn't move. Didn't speak. Because he already knew what came next. Jaemin looked up slowly. Not angry. Not shocked. Just, precise. That's your voice, he said. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. Then opened them. Yes. No denial. No excuse. Just truth. The air changed instantly. Everything between them, years of loyalty, trust, history, collapsed into a single moment. You set this up, Jaemin said. I controlled it, Daniel corrected quietly. There's a difference. Jaemin let out a soft breath. Explain. Daniel stepped back slightly, like he already understood the distance between them had become something permanent. You were losing control, he said. Your decisions were becoming emotional. Jaemin's gaze hardened. So you decided to fix it. I decided to protect what we built. At what cost? Daniel didn't answer immediately. That hesitation said enough. At any cost, Jaemin finished. Another silence. Then. You contacted them, Jaemin said. Yes. You brought Hae-jin here. Yes. You used her. A beat. Yes. That one landed the hardest. Because now it wasn't strategy. It was betrayal. Jaemin stepped closer. You turned her into bait. Daniel's voice dropped. She already was. That wasn't your decision to make. It became my decision when everything started slipping. Daniel snapped, the first crack in his composure breaking through. You were distracted. Hesitating. That's not who you are. Jaemin's expression didn't shift. That's exactly who I am now. The words hit harder than anger. Because they were final. Daniel saw it too. And for the first time, he realized he had already lost him. Hannah felt it before she saw it. That shift in the air. That pressure. Like something closing in from every direction. She stopped walking. The street was too quiet. Too empty. And then. Cars. Not one. Not two. Three. Blocking both ends. Her breath slowed. Not panic. Preparation. Doors opened. Men stepped out. Not rushed. Not loud. Just certain. Min-suk stepped forward again, this time without the hint of patience he had before. I told you it wasn't over, he said. Hannah didn't respond. Her eyes moved instead. Counting. Distances. Angles. Escape. None. You're not here for me, she said finally. Min-suk smiled slightly. No. A pause. Not anymore. That's when she understood. This wasn't about bringing her back, it was about ending something. Who gave the order, she asked. Min-suk tilted his head. You already know. And she did. Because there was only one person who had both the reach, and the reason. Daniel, she whispered. Min-suk didn't confirm it. He didn't need to. Move, he said. She didn't. Last chance. Hannah's hand moved slowly, not to fight. But to her stomach. And that. That hesitation. That instinct. That was the opening. Min-suk moved. Fast. But before he reached her. The sound tore through the street. A gunshot. Sharp. Precise. Min-suk stopped mid-step. Looked down. Blood, confusion flickered across his face. Then he dropped. Silence. Then. Another shot. Another man fell. The rest turned. Too late. Jaemin stepped forward from the edge of the street, the weapon steady in his hand, his expression colder than anything Hannah had seen before. Not rage. Not fear. Just decision. Get in the car, he said. Hannah didn't argue. Didn't hesitate. Because now. Everything had crossed the line. The drive was silent. Heavy. Until. You shouldn't have come, Hannah said. Jaemin didn't look at her. They were going to kill you. And now. He exhaled slowly, now they'll try harder. A pause. Then. Daniel did this, he added. Hannah's eyes closed briefly. I know. You knew. I suspected. That's not the same thing. It was enough. Silence again. Then. He won't stop, Jaemin said. No, Hannah replied softly. He won't. Another beat. Neither will Hae-jin. That was the collision. The one they couldn't avoid anymore. Two forces. Both moving. Both deadly. And them. Right in between. The final meeting didn't happen in a boardroom. Or a street. Or a place of power. It happened somewhere neutral. Empty, because nothing about this was controlled anymore. Hae-jin arrived first. Of course he did. Daniel came second. Alone. Jaemin and Hannah arrived last. Together. That was the first thing Hae-jin noticed. And the only reaction he gave was a slight narrowing of his eyes. You changed, he said to Jaemin. Jaemin didn't respond. Daniel did. He got distracted. Hae-jin's gaze shifted. You, he said calmly. Daniel didn't flinch. You broke the agreement. I improved it. A pause. You created chaos. I created control. Jean studied him for a long moment. Then. No, he said. You created consequences. The tension snapped. Everything collided at once. You used her. Jaemin snapped. I used a weakness, Daniel fired back. She's not a weakness. She is if you choose her over everything. Silence. Because that was the truth. The choice. The impossible one. Power. Or her. Life as he built it. Or something he never planned for. Jean spoke again, quieter now. This ends one way. All eyes turned to him. Someone pays. No argument. No denial, just reality. Daniel stepped forward. I built everything with you, he said to Jaemin. Don't throw it away for this. Jaemin looked at him. Really looked. At the man who had stood beside him for years. Who had just destroyed everything. You already threw it away, he said. Daniel's jaw tightened. So that's it? Jaemin didn't hesitate. Yes. That was the final break. Daniel reached into his coat. And everything exploded. Movement. Gunfire. Chaos. But this time. Jaemin didn't hesitate. Didn't calculate. Didn't hold back. Because the choice had already been made. When it ended, the silence was louder than the shots. Daniel was on the ground. Still. Unmoving. Jean stood untouched. Watching. Hannah stood frozen. Breathing hard. Alive. Jaemin lowered the weapon slowly. And for the first time. He looked different. Not powerful. Not untouchable. Just human. Jean stepped forward. His gaze moved from Jaemin to Hannah. You chose, he said. Jaemin didn't answer. He didn't need to. Jean nodded once. Then turned. And walked away. Just like before. But this time. It wasn't a warning. It was an ending. Weeks later. The headlines told a different story. Scandal. Collapse. Resignation. Jaemin Park disappeared from the world he built. No statements. No defense. Just silence. But in a quiet place far from the city. A different story existed. Hannah sat by the window, her hand resting gently on her stomach, the tension finally replaced with something softer. Not peace. But something close. Jaemin stood nearby, watching the world outside like he used to. But not the same way. Not with control. Not with ownership. Just, presence. You lost everything, Hannah said softly. He shook his head. No. A pause. Then. I chose. She looked at him, and for the first time. There was no fear. No warning. Just understanding. If this story kept you hooked till the end, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Because some choices change everything.